Hello, everybody. Hey, Don.
Hey, Julian.
How are you
Welcome,
doing?
everybody. Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited about today's show.
Yeah, me too. So, welcome, everybody, to season two, episode two already of Exploring the New Age, Countdown to Contact.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got a special show. I think, that's we're overusing that word because I'm finding that every show is special that we're doing.
They're
Uh,
tangents of special. I like tangents.
yes.
We're,
Okay,
we're, we're getting
super.
into the nitty gritty of very special things.
We are. Well, this is about as nitty and gritty as it gets. What we're talking about tonight. We're going to talk about the questionnaire, right?
Yes. And for those who are not familiar with the questionnaire, it is a series of questions that you would answer for yourself in response to um, what extraterrestrials or Pleiadians or what have you. There's a litany of those that want to meet us. What they want to hear our responses to match us up and to work out, how they would begin to meet us. Think of it as like a pre-interview to meeting our friends. You see.
Do you look at it, or do they look at it as an interview in order to be able to get this to happen, or is this a comforting way to get us to understand
Hmm.
what is really
At play.
play what this is really about. It's not, this is not just meeting your buddy at the bar. This is a
Good.
huge event for humanity.
Yeah, good call. It is not just a meeting at the bar.
Yes, yeah,
um,
although it may be, but who knows? That could be where it happens. But still.
um, I would say all of the above. That's what I feel. Um, originally I was asking the question like, if I were to meet anybody from outer space, how would I know what I'm getting into?
Right.
And how would I know I'm meeting the right people? Right?
Yes.
Because I don't want to be like, hey, I got it out of space, and like all of a sudden I'm like on a reptilian like warship. You're like, welcome. We've got great accommodations for you in the prisons in the back. So just getting to outer space or being visited is not on everyone's agenda necessarily, but to sort of flesh out the experience as well as expectations, right?
Right.
Because you should not be compromising on the experience you want to have.
Well, okay. Here's like what I'm comparing it to:
Okay.
meeting a famous celebrity. And most people, if they're in a position to meet a famous celebrity, usually end up saying really stupid things and doing something as far as asking for an autograph on and they don't have a pen ready, they don't have a piece of paper
Right.
ready.
They're not ready.
They're not ready for it, and so it's an encounter that could have had meaning for both people for whatever it is, but it ends up being kind of wasted,
Or falling short of
falling
expectation.
short of expectations. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and speaking of falling short of expectations, I didn't notice you got the haircut.
I didn't get a haircut.
You
I've
didn't
got
get a
I've,
haircut?
I've got a bun.
Oh, you got a bun.
I
Okay.
did.
I started looking. I started looking at the picture, and I'm like, wait a second. He got a haircut. Okay.
Astute observation, and yet for the first
No.
time I'm using a bun. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
I hadn't washed my hair, so this is like keeping tidy in one
There
sense
you
of the
go.
word. I want to make good appearance choices when
Well,
meeting
now
when talking.
you're getting ready for the interview,
Yeah,
right?
so, subconsciously, a part of me is like Joy, get fix up a little bit or something, and
Mm-hmm.
wear a good shirt. Wear a good shirt that
That,
that describes the experience you're looking for.
that special suits.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what we'll do today is we will run through the questions that currently are the more pertinent questions to ask. There's 11 of them. So we're going to take our time and discuss them to, whatever degree. The most important thing to note is that there is no wrong answer. Okay? It is a matching system. It is the right people who are available. Not everyone's available to just, show up. They're working out their own logistics, whether it's security or whether it's, something in the environment. There's a lot of things that are obvious, Like they're not going to come meet you in Central Park necessarily. So, if you're wanting to meet them in Central Park, that may be an issue, at the present. And maybe you want to go into, out in upstate New York, Adirondacks or something.
Mm-hmm.
But these things being considered, there's obvious things that you can do that are clear. Like,
now,
if you're
moving... Is this for just meeting Pleiadians, or when we're talking about extraterrestrials, are we talking about...
That's a great question. It is extraterrestrials you're in alignment with. So if the questions are basically established that everybody's looking for your answers to these questions.
Right.
Okay? The Pleiadians are a factor in that they are a monitoring system. They have a very vast monitoring network grid. So when you basically say, I want to be visited, you show up, right? Mm-hmm. You're like getting a ticket just by saying that, right? You're opening yourself up, and they are, reflective of all ways of asking that question. They can basically pan down to the energy and to the words. It doesn't have to be in English. And there's many ways of saying it, of course. And the point really is that you become familiar with this idea that you can be contacted for the first part, just to begin with.
Right.
Because right now, we don't have a lot of evidence. We don't have a lot of people saying, hey, I got contacted. It was great. It was groovy. We had wine or something. We got a beer. And
if they are saying that they got contacted, they get a lot of negative energy thrown at them.
Yeah, there are contactees. And the point is literally to become a contactee. Okay? Mm-hmm. And, without any sort of like probing and things like that you don't want, obviously. Right. So we're going to get into the issues that probably are more personally, associative.
Right.
There's lots of things that are obvious. Like if you go out to a clearing, in the middle of nowhere, and there's a good chance that you can meet someone without disturbing the local population about the experience, they know that. Mm-hmm. They know that you're making an effort for that. But do they know if you're the right person for the right people that want to visit? Because what's coming here is basically a massive, I don't want to say exodus, what's the best word? A massive number of people are going to be met now. They already are. There's a lot more contact occurring now than ever before. And sometimes it's just a sighting. It's just a ship sighting. Sometimes that's just what you need. Maybe that's like a starting point for some people. It doesn't have to be, a starting point. You can go all the way, they show up in your bedroom. It may be whatever you're comfortable with. And so that's part of what the questions are about. To give you a feel for, answer the questions truthfully and honestly, and you will get a much more enjoyable experience. The closer that you are in living the truth of your answer, the better the experience is going to be. So that's really what they want, because they don't want things to fall short. Mm-hmm. And they don't want us to feel like we're falling short for their expectations either.
Right.
So that's why it's kind of a matching system. Now, right now, there's somewhere in the margins of about 1,200 groups. We're not even talking about individuals. Wow. Groups that are kind of waiting behind a line, right?
Okay.
And what they're looking for is the opportunity for, the personal experience. I'm going to restart the chat here. It looks like it got... Okay. So they're looking for the opportunity like we are. But it's kind of like a dating game in a way, right? Mm-hmm. And, there may be some trying things out. You may have a dream experience of one, and maybe it's not good, and maybe, you know, it gives you an idea of what your priorities are too, you know?
Right.
So the questions are really meant to, you know, ease your expectations and be able to meet your expectations. And your answers can't be wrong because, you know, maybe some people meet, you know, the criteria that they're looking for in particular ways before some others. And maybe you don't meet the criteria for some of the meetings, but it's best that way, that you're not, you know, forcing people to meet you, you know, under criteria they're not comfortable with as well.
Well, it's true, but still, on the other hand, the questionnaire will be a one-way dialogue. Because
it will seem that way. Yes, it will seem like a one-way dialogue. But these answers should be written down, okay? Or they should be in some place that you can review them. So if you do like a recorder, in some way that you can listen to it and maybe say, I update my answer. Okay?
Right. You do an amendment.
Yeah, because you can always make amendments. It's not like, you know, you hand it in and it's in the mail and it's gone, you know? It's you know, you are meant to learn and grow, and you may learn and grow from the questions that you put forward.
Absolutely.
You know, so it's really meant to be synergistic, and, you know, it's supposed to develop, and you know, and it's supposed to feel safe. There's a really big issue with people not feeling safe with the unknown, right? So this idea is sort of like to bridge the unknown. You know, some people want the, you know, the movie experience. We're just like, what's happening next? Like, bam, you know, right in their face.
Some people just might not feel safe if they show up in their bedroom.
That's right. So that's, you know, I don't know if that's one of the questions, but we're going to find out. I've seen the questions, but they evolve. And mind you, these questions are going to be up on my website. We're going to have a page. You know, Crystal's at the ready to take these notes down. And we're going to get them up, you know, as soon as we can so people can see them. But there's no form as I thought there might be. Everybody basically, you know, find a piece of paper, open up a Word document, and document this in your own particular way. You know, if you want to do it, you know, with colored crayons, you know, or markers, doesn't matter. As long as, you know, the questions are associated, or your answers are associated with the questions as they appear. So, just give me 1 minute here to drink this.
Or even a video response might be a good way, because emotions can be conveyed a little bit more accurately through a video presentation. Yeah.
So if you may not have, like, you know, gift of the gab, or the, you know, the ability to display your words, you know, you can, you know, it totally be a video thing.
Yeah.
You know, imagine for a moment that the people you want to meet have the kind of technology where if you want to send them a message via YouTube, they can get it. Okay?
Right.
We can't prove that, but pretty much they have access to our internet in a read access type of way. They can read anything. Very few have the ability to plant information. That's a very special process and privilege to be able to actually put information into here, because what they have to do is they have to use human counterparts. They have to use, you know, people that have actually descended to Earth and are living a human life in order to, you know, type into, like, you know, a chat room or something like that, you know, what this Pleiadian wants to speak for the Pleiadian group or whatever like that.
Right.
Because at the moment, they can't just, like, tap into our internet and just sort of mess with it and populate it and make websites. They can't do this sort of thing. There's an identity lockdown on the internet, and there's no way for them to sort of, like, circumvent that really easily without it being, you know, immediately considered some sort of hack.
Okay.
Right? The internet is secure in its in a lot of ways. They could do it temporarily, but in most cases, it would, you know, there's a lot of red flags in our system for things that doesn't have a lot of continuity, you know, with addresses and stuff. Right? So the last thing we want to do is get anybody in trouble with, you know, having a Skype chat with, you know, an ET that can get, you know, FBI knocking on your door in a couple minutes, you know?
Right.
All right. So let's get to it.
Yeah.
And we will start with the with there's no order, mind you, okay? And you can answer any of these questions as much or as little or at all. Okay? You don't have to answer questions. This is an entirely voluntary process. And it's not my process. I want to be very clear. This is not my idea.
Right.
Um, let me rephrase that. People who don't believe I'm actually contacting Pleiadians or get that information in my head, this is allowed to be seen as my process. I'm okay. I can own up to the idea that maybe I'm creatively making this up, but from my point of view, my personal form of disclosure is that this is more spontaneous than my creativity has ever shows me, and this is kind of how I operate in sessions. Don and others, I'm sure, can speak for me talking to things I could not possibly know.
Absolutely. Yes.
So we'll get started here. I'm just rolling up my pants. It's warm in here. I'm like almost sweating and like itching a bit. It's a warm summer day in Seattle.
It is. We're actually in the same time zone right now.
Yeah, it's true. Actually, I have the window closed because, as you know, there's a train that goes by every once in a while.
Yeah.
But I think we're good. I got my water. We'll sweat through it if we have to. Okay, so first there's a greeting, and yes, this is Pleiadian heavy centric. I mean, I don't know if that even makes sense the way I said that, but it is Pleiadian heavy on the communication.
Okay.
Okay, and the Pleiadians are coordinators in here, but they're sharing a common message. So this is a message that would go out psychically to people who are meditating, who have no idea who I am and are wishing to have this contact. They would be getting these sorts of questions. Okay, really close. I may not be right on the ball word for word, but I'll be as close as I can get, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they'll correct me if there needs to be corrections. I'm going to sound like I'm channeling a little bit. I'm going to speak from a first-person point. Welcome, everyone. Everyone who's listening presently and listening in a future present, which is still the present. We welcome you as we observe a new interchange between humans and those not observed directly as humans, but those observed as people from other places. We say people from other places because some are not even from other planets. They're from your own world, but other dimensions. The discussion of dimensions will and continue to be expanded in your world. It is a high priority for your scientific community to discuss this. You're aware of dimensions through your televised programming. There are explorations on science fiction, for at the moment it is much like science fiction. And yet, fiction has its own reality, has its own truths. That is a great part of what this merging of peoples from many places is about. The visitation, as it can be described, or the close encounter, or the, in some cases known as abductions, takes place in an environment where a part of oneself has agreed on the experience. Much of this is done at the soul level, the subconscious level, and the etheric level, as you would understand etheric. At this time, that is able to expand. The lines of joining can expand in areas that have never been seen before in this place and time for the humankind. At large, at least. Some have. And new peoples already. Now, there is going to be a very long journey with this. Some say as soon as extraterrestrials make themselves known, we will have a new human community as priorities will change. This will take time. This will take effort, and this will take each personal experience to realize how one fits into the equation. Everyone fits into the equation. If you're here and you're alive within the next couple of years, you will be a part of this equation in some way, some form, somehow. Whether it affects you as a community or whether it affects you individually or if it affects those that you love, people are going to begin, humans that is, begin to have these discussions about what does it mean and what does it mean to me. Those listening right now are able to be on the forefront of these thoughts and ideas and experiences. So as it begins, for those who have not already had an experience or have had an experience and are ready for their next experience, we bring these offers. And these offers are in the form of question. And there is no right or wrong answer. There is no phonetic, syntactual version of sharing your answer that is better than another. Your intention in your response, your awareness of what you're responding to, and your aptitude toward what is being requested is all in flow and of value. To be clear, Pleiadians are amongst those interested in direct contact, like Billy Meyer has had, and many others. At this time, and as times before, there has been an awareness that channeling has been a preferred form of non-interference because invitation was explicitly arranged. This is the same form of invitation. Whether it be a channeled experience you have, or a visit by a craft, or a visit by an individual, or individuals. This journey is meant to be a personal one at this time. There will be larger community experiences that will take place. But the reason for this contact at this time is to establish the grid work for those that would support the larger meetings. Many are not going to be taken from this plane, this earth, without being returned. That is not what has been agreed upon at this time. Can you be taken? I'm going to say right now, yes, you can. But you'll be returned, in most cases, without time having lapsed. You will be not taken and returned in your future. There are those that have been, and they will be returned and seen in your future. But for this communication, it's not for that purpose. So, on to the questions. Okay, they're letting go of that sort of microphone thing. Oh, that's a really weird feeling. Okay. I have a question. Who was I speaking with? This is a Pleiadian known as lange, or language. Like language, but without the wedge.
Which? What? What?
Yeah. Lang is a communications officer and is a, you'll get this, is like an air traffic controller.
Good for him.
It's a she.
And she, good
It's
for
a
her.
she.
Sorry about that.
For those who are not aware, Don is a retired
Air traffic controller.
air traffic controller out of Michigan.
Oh, Chicago.
Chicago.
Mhm.
Yes. All right. On to the questions. The first question, in no particular order, is what is your favorite thoughts about extraterrestrial races? As in like a memory or a story you've heard from somewhere. What is something that makes you excited based on information that already exists? Okay. If there are questions in the chat room, now is a good time to ask them about that. And we can maybe clarify a little bit,
Sure.
or we can talk about it. Do you have any thoughts, Don?
So what they're looking for is really an idea of how we are envisioning who we're going to meet and what.
Not exactly. They're asking
Okay.
us more specifically what has appealed to us.
Okay.
What has appealed to us? Not in the way that it's going to be necessarily repeated.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? If something that appealed to you happened exactly this way, and that's the only way you want to have it happen, well, you might want to state that if that's
Right.
not evident in your energy to begin with. But it's as if they're asking what even makes this a possibility in your mind because of prior information, perhaps.
Sure.
So they're looking for what your prior interests have resulted in admiration of.
Mm-hmm.
Was the chat room live? I don't see it moving much. Everybody in the chat room, are we still or do you have, okay, so yes, it's moving.
Being family appeals to me, or having self upon a ship excites me.
Yes, so you can speak those, and maybe the following questions may actually, when you see them all, you may see that something like that might fit, one of your answers may fit in one of the following questions. You see what I'm saying? So what you might have as an answer may work for more than one question.
Right.
Okay? To be even more specific, speak to an example that you can point to and say this already existed or this concept is already developed, not a what will be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So we're talking about the past here in some shape or form, something that you can ground, something you can describe for multiple ways because it's something that you can, we could talk about, many people are probably inspired by the story of Billy Meyer, right? And so that may be all you need to say. I'm inspired because of the story of Billy Meyer. You wouldn't say, I'm inspired by all the people, who, have been probed by, Greys or something like that. I'm not inspired by that, so don't mention that. Mention what you are inspired by, you see. Okay. Let's move to the second question, I think.
Great.
Second question, interesting. If you would have one thing removed from Earth or from your life, if it's on Earth, if it's in your life, it counts as something on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Something removed, what would that be? Now, it's an if, which makes it much more open-ended that you need not even answer the question, right? Now,
Right, and there's no Y added in there. It's just
there's no,
what?
well, you can give a why if you want to.
Okay, okay,
You know, you can speak on the subject however you wish.
sure.
All right, it's no wrong answer, no right answer either.
Yes.
When it comes down to it, it appears to be a question that is requesting what you're ready to see change, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. But removed is a very specific word they're using. So it has a high contextual importance in this question. So removed, maybe it's like, the cabal, the Illuminati, out of the, whatever, removed.
We have the moon weapons already
Right,
showing up in there.
weapons of mass destruction, whatever. Doubt,
Fear and
fear,
doubt. Yeah.
conceptual, it could be anything. Okay? There's no, it's a product of what's important to you. And it is not directly associated with what you feel helpless about. Okay? That's very important. It's not requesting what you feel incapable of achieving yourself. It's more like a wish of sorts. A wish holds no contextual limits, and no one judges you over what you wish.
Okay, I'm leaning towards mosquitoes. Is in the
Mosquitoes.
I like that one.
I like mosquitoes removed.
Yes.
Okay. So, what about black flies? Is black flies not annoying? Okay. Next question. This one's also different. It's weird because Lang is coordinating this, but it's actually different people getting the answer. It's almost like this is a question that's been organized by many, many people, and it's like each group has a vested investment in the final,
Right.
Result.
Right.
We're tapping into millions of people that have gone over these questions and considerations. Million people not here.
So that's not something they threw together last night.
No,
yeah.
It's been in development as there's been sort of like a community of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
Collective agreements. And, they're all trying to move the ball as a, at once sort of thing. Like they're all trying to keep it going.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. So the third question is, what would you do for others if you were contacted? The definition of contacted is open to whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is like, what would you give back in a way?
Right.
For having contact. And this is presuming that your ideal vision of contact can take place, right? You may make it very open-ended. You don't know what it'll be, but you still have some intentions for what you would give back as a result for being contacted. I'm assuming after you return. Yes. If you're contacted, whether you were taken away or met and not taken away, or contacted, in your dreams or in your mind, or as a voice, or through synchronicity, what would you think of the idea of what you would give to others that has something to do with what you might get? Like if you get something from an interaction, what are you prepared or interested or would like to, even if it's not feasible necessarily?
Mm-hmm.
What would you want to? Just want to be able to do, to share, the experience that you had in some way. But it's not even that contextual. It's more like, what would you give back? You could just say, I'm going to give blankets to the shelter, to the homeless or something. That's okay. It may have nothing to do with the actual value you attain from the contact itself.
Right. Is this intended simply for what you give back to humans, or would it include giving back
They're
to
saying
other
other people.
species, other people? Well,
People other than you.
yes.
That can be your
Okay.
family even. I mean, that
Yeah.
qualifies. That can be, giving your billions of dollars away. Who knows?
Right.
It's all, each person's got their own story, right?
Exactly.
All right. Let's move on to the fourth question. Unless we had questions in the chat room, were you?
Well, I'm monitoring it. One question was, what is the proper protocol to personally meet with Pleiadians from their perspective? But we're
going over that right now.
Right. We're
answering these questions is the protocol.
It's the start right now.
It is the primary form of protocol.
Yes.
Okay. It is going to get you on the right list, the soonest, the fastest. Okay. So I love the answers I'm seeing in the chat room. They're going by, but they're wonderful. So we will move on to the fourth question here. That's interesting. Okay, I know. I get to hear it. I get to hear it before. Yeah, I get to hear it before you get to hear it. So it's like, oh, hey, yeah. I got like 5 seconds of having it first. They're asking us if you could eat any food that you know of that exists, mind you, whether it's in a form of fiction or not, what would that food be? As in, and I think this is what they're getting to, if they have a replicator and you're going to have your first meal with them or something like this, what would you request if you could have anything? As in food, ingested food. I don't know if you have to chew it and swallow it, but I'm assuming that's, yes. They actually didn't consider that. I put that out. They're like, chew it and swallow it. Why wouldn't you? Okay. Some people, they don't want to gain weight or something. Fictitiously means you can alter some of the properties, I'm assuming, if it's a work of fiction, but it should be something that they can research on their own, right? So if you just made it up, you might have to be descriptive. Okay? But if it's like something out of Harry Potter, they can probably figure that out.
One of those Klingon dishes from Star Trek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, isn't like all Klingon food like alive while you're eating or something?
Weird stuff. Yeah, that's for sure.
Okay, well, the idea is out there. If you're not going to be disappointed, they may serve you something like this.
Right.
But, there's other things related too. They may not serve this to you, It may just be a personality kind of question. Like, what kind of food do you like? Blah, 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 it sounds like chit-chat, but every chit-chat I've had with Pleiadians, they remember every detail.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you guys definitely held on to those pieces of information pretty seriously. So I'm like, okay, it is important.
Yeah.
It may even be like, we need to know it's you, what's your password?
Yeah, really
something like that. Yeah. Okay. They always like tickle my nose when it's time for the next one. It's really weird. Like, move on. All right. The fifth question. In your life, what have you had the sense you were waiting for? Now, that's a very large question. Waiting for is it's probably very personal. So you don't have to be as personal as it might seem the question is requesting. You just need to be as personal as you want them to be personal with you, right? So there's a degree of sensitivity that they're explaining comes with how the degree of your willingness to be sensitive. over what you're waiting for. And it's just, contact, then it's contact. There's, there's fast and short answers here, and there's, collecting your thoughts and really sharing, as much as you feel is valuable information to you. If it's
Right.
valuable information to you, they will read it. They will pour over that. Okay? So, what have you been waiting for? Some people it's, enlightenment maybe. Maybe it's, as simple as I can't wait till they put a bus stop near my house. As it serves, it will, based on what you give. And
Right. I mean, I think the point is they're asking the question, and you're going to give it thought, and through that, you learn about you, and they learn about you.
That's a good point.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like that actually, that process is definitely going to take place.
Yes.
If you put thought into this, this is this is kind of a good self-reflection exercise as well.
Yeah.
So, that's a really good point. I can see how they're prompting that level of experience. Okay. They are suggesting that you write this in a peaceful state of mind, right? That when you answer this from your dominant mood, or the mood that you feel stands best for you, right? So don't write it when you're in a panic. Don't write it when you're angry. Don't write it after you just had your partner dump you or something. Don't write it in pain.
The mood that you would like to bring to the contact.
Yeah, which would be, peaceful and
calming.
It could be amorous. I mean, it could be very affectionate, perhaps.
It could be, yes.
So you can share that level of affection in your words.
Anticipating, exciting, and that sort of thing. But yes.
Okay. There's a good question by Kimberly. When do they get our answers? And when do we know they have gotten them? They get them. There'll be a very specific ceremony that we'll talk about that will sort of like indicate that what you've written is what it is for a little while, for the time being. Okay? And so we will get to that stage at the end. They like the question because it's something that is coming up at the end. All right. Are we on our fifth question now?
Yes.
Oh.
No.
Which of the planets in your solar system do you identify with most? And say why. If you don't have much to say on that, it's okay. There's no, no right and wrong answer. What planet do you identify? And you may identify with all of them, to be frank, even though I'm Julien. You may identify with all of them, but speak the one that you think, and it's just one, okay? Generally, that's the question. It's contextually, they're saying yes. They're hoping you'll narrow it down to one. And planetary bodies count. So you may actually choose the moon. You may choose, a moon around Jupiter. Planetary bodies, including the sun, but they're hoping you're not going to pick the sun, to be honest. They're looking at planetary bodies that you can land on.
Right.
Okay? Like, you want to go visit? Maybe we'll take you to go see this so you know we're the guys or the girls or the people. Right? And we'll tell you, so you said you're interested in Mars. Do you identify with it? Tell us why. Because we'll like to take you to a place that you'd find, some sense of yourself in it, it seems. Like, what do you find a sense of self in? So, apparently there's no limit. Something within the solar system. I guess, we're going to take you somewhere. I'm guessing this is what it leads to. This is my guess. They're not confirming it. They're not confirming that even if, they do find a reason to come visit you, it's not necessarily that they're going to show you exactly your favorite place that you identify with.
Right.
And they say identify with, not your favorite necessarily. Identify with apparently is more accurate. So they're correcting me a bit.
And are they looking in our present solar system
Our
or out?
present solar system as we know
Okay.
it. If there
Okay.
are things, they're saying, hey, if you know about things that are here and you know they're here
Right.
and they matter to you, then yeah, you may list that, like maybe Nibiru or something,
Right.
right? Or, anyways, um, Pluto. I think there's even one beyond Pluto now. There's one even further out than Pluto, another asteroid-like thing. Okay, we're going to move on to the 6th question. This is different. It's a very short answer for this one. Name the extraterrestrial species or group that you are most familiar with. Now I'm going to put my hand up. I'm going to say Pleiadians. That's what's going to be on my form. It's not a surprise. Okay? But many of you may not be Pleiadians. They may have come here because, they have some affinity with Pleiadians, and that's how I attract a lot of my audience, it seems. But it may be, Andromedans, Arcturians, Syrians, what have you.
Mm-hmm.
It They want to be specific in the way that it does not need to be extraterrestrial. That was not entirely clear at the beginning of it. It does not need to be extraterrestrial, but it can be a race that's like the Agarthans, for instance. Okay, or it can be fairies, or if you know about elves here that and you know more about the elves that live on Earth, great. I'm not terribly familiar with elves living on Earth, but if you are, then that's what you want to answer. In some cases, people may call it a piece of fiction. It would be something you would say you don't think is a fiction. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
We could talk about creatures from, the Harry Potter books or from Star Wars and say, I know more about, these guys. I know about Wookiees more. Okay? But if you're not certain of their existence, then that's not what you want to list.
Right.
You want to talk about something that you certainly might be able to meet in the near future, should the availability take place. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So this is not meant to squash the idea. If you like Pleiadians that you can't meet an Andromedan, they may still fit the bill and see that you'll probably still enjoy the experience enough. They will still be like Pleiadians, the more Pleiadian-like of Andromedans, perhaps. Who knows? They're very similar. I have to confess, they're very similar as a people, and in their awareness. So, in the way of what you're more familiar with, it's a short answer. You don't have to explain why. You don't have to
Mm-hmm.
talk about it. You don't have to prove it to anybody. Right? If you're familiar with fairy realms and like the Queen of Fairy Titania or something like that, that's it. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But if you know Pleiadians as well and you know them more, then put Pleiadians. The point is there's a certain form of honesty in this too. Okay? Just because what you indicate doesn't mean that's what you're going to meet. It's more based on, I guess, something about knowledge, like what you've sort of maybe even researched at some point. I'm guessing. So, what are we on? The 7th question?
Actually, we're on the 8th.
We're on the 8th. Think of a time that you've been lost, or identify with the word lost. Mentally, physically, and describe that experience a past experience, not a present experience. If you feel lost now, that's not what we're talking about. A past experience, and describe the process of being lost to eventually the definition you would call not lost. So you're describing a journey of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever mattered to exploring that or discussing that matters to you. So this is a bit more essay-like question.
Right.
They said, I'm going to make up for the short answer on the other one. You spend more time on this one.
So this is going to be more personal.
It has to be personal because
Right.
it's describing you as an individual.
Yes.
So, it could have been like 6 years old. You got lost in the mall or the park or something. You couldn't find mommy. Or you got lost on the way to work. You didn't have directions. All of that applies. Okay? Again, no wrong answer, but it is based on a truth about you that you can associate some factors. Now, what I'm wondering, and I'm going to ask this question, does this give bearing to what would happen is if you found yourself lost amongst the stars, And they're saying, yes, but you're not going to get lost amongst the stars. It's very hard to get lost amongst the stars when you have means of exploring the stars. So we know lost as a human on Earth experience.
Right.
It's not very common at all from an off-Earth experience. So to discuss this process of lost and not lost a thing, you as a person. Say, I lost my keys. That doesn't apply. They're saying not the experience of lost, but lost where you felt that you were in had a paradigm of helplessness, perhaps, right? Or discomfort, maybe. And describe the journey from lost to not lost. There's nothing to prove here. There's no right and wrongs. If you don't know how that occurred, then just say, I don't know.
Right.
This is a good time to mention. You can say, I don't know to any of these questions. Okay? It's up to you to give the answer in however you see fit. You can leave it blank. You don't even have to say, I don't know. You're not required to answer. But if you say, I don't know, I'm assuming you mean because you don't know. Like you can't put those thoughts together. Okay? All right. Next, 9th, are we?
Yeah, 9.
If you could go by any name, what would you go by? If you were not named by another, what would you choose as a static name for yourself? This is not an invitation to begin the process of assuming that, okay? But call it a unique identifier, okay? If you're going to go with John, you're going to say we don't believe you, okay? We're not going to call you John in a given situation where you want to be identified uniquely amongst all Johns. Okay? So if it's John, say, John the Baptist or something. It's not a good example, but John, the comedian. Who knows? Okay? Person formerly known as John. It's just, what have you? Everybody should have this actually already within them. Most people here would have that name or have maybe played with names in their life. There's a large part of the human population, they're agreeing, do not have a name like this. But it is descriptive of an inner tangent of creativity. Because this name is not given to you. You may take the name that someone else may have, I'm going to call myself Michael Jackson or something. You can do that, but it's a name you would give to yourself. And again, this is not going to be what's on your passport when you leave. That's what they're saying. It's not necessarily going to be on your passport, but it does help people connect somehow, okay, with another way, because sometimes, and they can explain this one a little bit more, sometimes the mind is not ready for a certain experience, but if you're given sort of like an experience that's a bit more dreamlike in association, you can look at it from a third person point of view. You could say, this person had that experience, right? It gives room for dissociation in a given way. So the way they're sharing that, I seems to think that they would like to address you this way, preferably.
Right.
And it'll be a great tip-off when somebody shows up and calls you that. You're like, oh, you read my notes, right? You read my dossier. Something like this. All right. Any questions about that one? I see some people that are actually sharing their names.
They're sharing their names, yes.
Some really beautiful names there.
Amazing.
Okay. This is not a password name, by the way. Okay. Somebody else may have the same name. Doesn't mean they unlock, like, your credentials or something. When you get to the point where people can read you telepathically, you can't really lie to them about who you are. This is more a product for your mind than it is for theirs. Okay? Okay. Yeah, and you can use your first name, like, Julien. That's, if you could change your name, I would still pick Julien, perhaps. I don't know. All right. But pick one, not multiple. That's another thing that I was told to say. Pick one. There's probably many you would enjoy to call yourself, but just pick one.
Yeah, well, you can pick another one for your second contact.
Right. It can, maybe you can change this. If you haven't had contact yet, you can change this. And we'll get to that, how you can change all the answers, before you have contact, or at any time, really. But that's at the end. We're on our 10th.
Tell me in the chat room, my friend. Yes, I think we're on the 10th.
Okay. It's asking, what are the color of your eyes? There's also, again, we're specifying no wrong answer. Okay, you can actually give a color of your eyes that they're not. I have no idea. They say, consider this question kind of like when you're filling out a form on the internet and they're just trying to make sure a computer isn't answering this.
Okay.
That you're actually a person associated with the answers. So it's like a test, If you put, something that basically denotes that doesn't exist, like orange or something like that, or red maybe, they will see it as like, basically take it literally and just treat it for literally. They're just making sure that, if you're going to say black, you're moving away from high probability of meeting people. This is a question that you really should answer, because it's much more test-like than any of the other ones.
Okay.
Okay? So, it does assume a minimum capability of being able to see your eyes in the mirror. Okay? But I'm being told you want to get this one right. They're saying it's like a fail-safe thing. Okay? If for some reason you were also to look in the mirror and see that your eyes changed color, you'd know that you're in the wrong place. Like you're in a dream or something.
Okay.
Okay? Because sometimes that happens, they're saying. Sometimes you don't know you're in a dream until something is so far out of place that they need to show you, look, you're on a Pleiadian ship and you're not a Pleiadian. Okay? You need to know that you have an eye color here that is not what you said, which means that this is not your true home. This is not your true point of grounded awareness. You're somehow tangentially away from the physical body experience, which is important to you. Okay? So knowing what your color eyes are is almost tantamount to your passport identification, to who you really are.
So some of these questions are looking for creativity. Some of these questions
This
are
is
looking
not a
for
creative.
grounding, grounded information.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is very specifically for grounding. That's a really good point. That does explain it well. Okay. There's no wrong answer still. All right? If somebody you saw put in purple, it may mean that, they're preparing to wear purple contact lenses. Okay? So there is, before we get on to the last question or point, it's important to know that your application really does not need a single other human's approval. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Take note. If you want to show this to people, you may. Okay? Or whatever you want to do with it, it's yours. But it is in some forms a contract as it currently stands.
Right.
Because what happens when you are with people who are very imposing, like you met an angel or God, you feel like nothing next to them in a way. Not always. Angels usually make you feel pretty good. But this is to have you grounded in your sense of who you are and to not forget why you're valuable. Okay? Everyone's equal, but not everyone is equal in knowing that everyone's equal. Okay? So it's very important to be centered on your responses as best as possible, because they're going to take people who answer these seriously. You're going to get more serious experiences and possibly more physical like experiences too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Note that these questions have almost been drawn from people who are answering these questions on Earth that have led to contact already. Okay?
Okay.
So they're working off a bit of a historical sense of what's important and have drawn people together. Not abductions. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of abductions that were not done by extraterrestrials. They want to make that clear.
Right.
And they will make it more clear through various explanations in the future. I don't know if that's going to come from me or not, but explanations will take place. How to identify with, the right experience. All right. Everyone ready for the 11th and final question for the
11.
moment? Describe the family you identify with. Identify also has no wrong answers.
Right.
But describe what you would put in the box of family. The descriptions have no right and wrong, long or short. You can say I've got, 6 brothers like I do. These are the names, whatever. I don't care to get into their, the history on them. Just describe family members. Because these are people that have a stake in your experience, whether you know it or not. These are people who will be affected whether you decide to tell them anything at all or not. The reason for this is that when you return, you're not going to be the same person. When you've had experience, you are not going to be the same person. And neither will your family. If you're different, reality will present itself differently to you. And your family are stakeholders in this. They're the ones that hold a specific resonance with your DNA and with your memories. If you identify your best friend as family, then put your best friend in there too. Do you see?
Mm-hmm.
So you can put all your friends if they are your family. You could just say, the whole planet, everybody is my family. It's up to you, but this is important to establish exactly how this will play out for you as well. It may mean that they will give you some information and they'll say, okay, you want to go to the next stage? You got to tell your family. You're going to be gone, for a while. Or tell your family because maybe they're allowed to come if they're okay with it. Things like this. It helps establish certain parameters that go forward. Okay? All right, that's it with the questions for now. But certain questions will drop off the list and new ones will replace them. And I'll be sharing those probably on the show or on my Facebook and on the website.
Okay, one thing. Crystal's talking about needing to get clarity on that last question after the show, but if we can get some clarity while on the show, that might help some people, because I imagine there's going to be a lot of questionnaires done tonight.
Family, yes. What you identify as your family.
So it's not just your family of origin.
No, it's not.
Or it could be.
It could be
your family of origin.
It could be. If you feel no connection with anyone around you physically here, but you feel connected to the Pleiadians, then that's family, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now you might say that doesn't affect, whatever. That doesn't affect them if I'm going out. You don't know that.
Right.
Because you may not meet with Pleiadians necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
You may be meeting with Pleiadians don't have time for you or something, and they can't work you in. You're going to go hang out with, Syrians or little grape, Alpha Centaurians or something.
Yes. I mean, okay, like the example that's popping into my head here is the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Right.
So Richard Dreyfuss has got a wife. He's got a couple of kids. He starts sculpting with mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
And he goes off to Devil's Tower, and he gets on that ship. And, the story ends, so we don't know but what happened after that. But he has got a family that was part of him prior to that contact, and they were impacted by it. So that's the example that's in my head right now.
That is a good example, and you definitely use examples like that if they're if they come up for you. So family is still your definition. It's still your personal definition, and what family you think is still going to be valuable after this. Some people, they won't identify with a family if they're saying, if I ever have this experience, I don't care about my family. That's fine. You may identify with a family that is yet to be, perhaps. Okay? And again, no wrong answer, but all these questions I'm realizing are very important. Like, these all really establish a grounding set of priorities, really.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of questions out there. They could make this a 100-question questionnaire, but the importance is not to put that level of energy into it. Okay, because then you're focusing on the minutia and not staying open to the possibilities.
Right.
Okay, because most of these contacts are not going to be what you expect. They're going to have to stretch out and try things that you may have never heard of or done before or even seen in movies. Contact can happen in any way that you identify that you've been contacted by a special experience. Okay? So that's the definition of contact. A special experience. We started with special at the beginning. This is one of those specials.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm going to get into the closing process. Like how to say, I'm done for the moment. Because you may, fall asleep writing something halfway through. And you're like, wait, I had more to say. I didn't finish what I was saying. There is basically a saving the file need for this. Okay, like saving it, and that's the current state. If someone were to download that off your computer, it would be grabbing it from this state. Okay? It's not necessarily live. You can do live when you see them in person or meet the experience in person. Say, I changed my mind. I changed my mind. I changed my mind. You can do that. But as a standing point, there needs to be a standing steadiness for them to acquire the information. And they may not even get your latest version. They are admitting they may not see your latest version. Okay? It would be nice if they did. And the other question that is going to be answered is, are they going to get the answer today? Okay? Yes, but it's like the mail. You never really know how long it takes for the recipient to sort it and get it delivered to the people that it meets best.
Right.
So even if you think, hey, they've got it, technically they get it the moment that you hit save. Technically it's sent. But the response can have some delays about as long as our own post office system. Okay? So it could be days, admittedly, before you can be sure that you've been considered.
What are some of the steps that are going to go through that might cause that delay? What happens to the questionnaire?
Well, what happens is that a lot of this is it's all vibrational, mind you. So what they're doing is they're matching up that vibration. So it can take longer, kind of like if who you're meant to meet at this time is not meeting at the moment. Like they're all booked up or something. So in the same vein, if you say Pleiadians, right, and you're like, I'm not going to say Pleiadians because they're going to be the most overbooked. That sort of thing to fit up. There's plenty for whatever you're looking for, and you really shouldn't be compromising. Because if you compromise and you say, I love Pleiadians, but I'm sure nobody picks the mantids. I'm going to pick a mantid, And you're like, not so comfortable. I'm not really up with this.
So it's not going to be a case of them drawing straws to see who has to go meet this one person, because there's going to be a vibrational match for everybody.
Vibrational match, and the Pleiadians, not all of them are ready themselves.
No, sure.
Right? Like they have to go through certain expected protocols so that everyone who calls themselves a Pleiadian kind of looks like they're from the same place.
Right. I mean, we've got 25 people now watching. Now, we don't have 7 billion people watching.
Right.
So not all humans are ready for this either.
Not all humans are ready for this. I will admit, but I know that one day, through the efforts of meeting people early,
right,
I think, and this is my little prayer, putting it out there, that people who are meeting and are having those experiences can really help shape what happens for the collective.
Absolutely.
Kind of like, hey, I know you guys, and you know me kind of now, and maybe we could talk about what my opinions on this are. Blah 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 blah. Start lines of communication that may be more than just meeting, maybe all sorts of communication.
Right.
Okay. So again, they know that logistically the Pleiadians are in demand. Okay. And for that reason, many of them have been training and preparing for this long ago. Like, not long ago, like 10 years. More than 10 or 15 years. They've been knowing and, trying to think of, how they would diplomatically represent Pleiadians, since you're not going to meet them all at the same time. right? It's kind of like, let me talk about what you think Pleiadians are, and then I'll tell you what I think Pleiadians are when you're with them. Just got to bridge some gaps, so clear up some cobwebs, get the message a little clearer. So at the beginning, it may be literally that you need to get an education on kind of what happens next, and that's a part of what we're going to do here on this show.
Okay, one question that's been posed: is this questionnaire to be used for the September time frame?
It's to be used from now till the end of time frame.
Right.
So here going forward, there's nothing related to September that need apply in this questionnaire at all.
Right.
Okay. Note that September has really big plans. I think I might have mentioned this. There's a plan, a massive flyover over the entire planet. It may be hours, it may be days.
Right.
Where there's just ships and ships till finally everybody's talking about it. Okay? And talking about it doesn't mean everyone's comfortable about it. They may think it's an invasion. Some people say it's an invasion. The other people got to talk them off the ledge, maybe. So it's not an invasion. It's not an invasion. If they would have killed us by now or something. Whatever it is, it will be challenging. And
of course.
The whole planet would be very challenged.
There's not much happening on the planet right now that isn't challenging.
It will kind of make other things look small.
Exactly.
Right? It'll like government voting for president. Really, maybe that is the most important decision you can now make, because now what what the president's going to say is, helping you decide if you're going to back the president. You may be like, hey, I think president's not doing this fast enough. Everybody knows. Let's do something here. So, in many ways, there is a massive disclosure taking, basically planned in the September time frame. Okay, everybody's saying this. You don't even have to listen to me. I believe this information is big enough. You'll find it out outside of the circle of just this show. Okay. Pretty sure it's gonna be talked about in places. Okay, or ask if you take time and listen to channelers and stuff like that. Ask your channelers, ask your channeler friends.
Right.
Okay, because this is kind of a big thing. It's like saying we're not gonna miss Christmas, and Christmas happens at Christmas. So this is. This is a very important time. September really is. And this September specifically, apparently, get people on the who are energy studiers and astrologers, and get them on the phone and ask them, hey, what is it about September? And they'll tell you there's something about September too. Okay,
right.
It's not just like September's looks pretty in the fall. It's there's energy behind it. Okay. Much like, September 11th, 9/11 was a nexus of a great deal of energy that got guided in a direction that we would say, promoted difficulty, but also promoted expansion. Yeah.
And so the timing of anyone's personal potential contact experience is going to depend on them vibrationally and who they're matched with. And it could happen soon, or it could happen a little further down the timeline.
But September specifically is separate from this questionnaire.
Yes.
Okay, I want to make that clear. These ships are not flying over. They're just flying. They're just making appearances. Like what we already got. It's not like you got a ship, 20 feet above you. Not like that. It's going to be lots of lights, lots of unexplained phenomena like we already have. Okay, it's not going to be much different than that, except for the frequency is going to be off the charts. Like, no matter where you are, you look up, you're seeing ships. Anybody can see this, right? Naked eye stuff. Don't have to see the videos. You'd be like, there's no point. Everyone's putting up videos. YouTube is crammed with this stuff. Doesn't matter. Everybody's seeing it. There's no point. You're not even going to want to do a search on UFOs after this.
Right.
Because it'd just be like, oh, everybody and their mother, look what I saw. It looks like we all saw it. Okay. They don't have to. We get it. They're there. All right. We're like in a beehive. Just, from one point of view, they're flying everywhere. So that's separate. Contact is already taking place in the way of what most of the shows talked about. Okay? And yes, in the air too. We've seen contact that way too. We're just talking about it is real, like this idea of September being a big date coming forward. The energy is supporting personal meetings. People are ready for this. People are not only ready for this, but they have a greater sense of themselves in the experience, which is very important, which required an awakening of humanity, a spiritual, personal growth of, inciting what, and how to operate in life in a more effective way, right? For one's inner peace and one's inner beauty and one's inner excitement. We've had to learn how to do this. And so many people, catching this video right here are people that can identify with that. I'm pretty sure everybody here identifies with that. But not everybody identifies with that, you see.
Are any world leaders like Obama or Putin aware of the September thing?
I can't answer that question.
Okay.
They just haven't reported on it. There's certain things that I can report on, but that is a different space.
Perfect.
Like, the Pleiadians are not here to answer that question at this time.
But we've got some very interesting information out tonight.
Yes.
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 Actually, very special information out tonight.
It's very special information, and I feel very, I want to say humbled to be here to share this with everybody.
Yes.
I realize that people who have, these contacts will want to maybe corroborate with me or something, or may use me as like, I heard it from Julien first, and that can mean a whole lot of things,
Yeah.
So I'm humbled because I don't know what it's gonna mean for me personally. I'm gonna write my own answers to the questions. I mean, I'm sure everybody here would.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong. You can't actually, do something. It's kind of like, what have you got to lose? That's what I mean to say. What have you got to? You can't go wrong. What do you got to lose? So, share this if you're in love with the answers. On your websites, your blogs, wherever. But don't tell them I told you to do so. It's for your own desire of what it feels like to share. And if you're afraid of what people think of what you're putting out, then you can keep it personal. You don't have to share this. You don't. You can keep it locked away behind a password or something if you want to.
Well, let's face it. Yeah. You hit send, you're sharing it, but you don't have to share it with people here on the planet.
Right. Oh, mind you, as soon as you've saved the file or basically put the cap on your pen, right, or put your pencil down, whatever implement you've used to answer it, you have to state, somehow, finished or done for now.
Right.
But if you say something like, I'm not done, like unfinished business at the moment, and I just, I'm not finishing at this time, then that is not finished. You can say it any language, any way you want to say it. I'm not done, or I'm done. I'm done. It's that simple. It goes out that way. You can come to it and edit it, however. You can get all messy and, scribble things out and fill it in other ways. But again, the rule applies, or the suggestion applies, not a rule, that you do it in a better state of mind. Like, for instance, you write some beautiful things, and you come back, like, later that night, you're totally drunk, or wasted or something, you're like, oh, and you're right, like, I want to meet clowns, or something, and you just, you change it. They're not going to take it seriously, but technically, if you follow the rules, it applies. You say, and I'm done, they're going to, that's how it went out.
Well, there's a great seriousness to this, and a great
there is
to it also.
Yes, and they are taking it seriously.
Yeah,
and definitely find that state of mind that you prefer living. As you want to represent yourself well. That's my opinion. You want to represent yourself well and authentically. Hint: they live by that form of authenticity themselves.
Right.
Okay. And they know that authenticity is a changing thing. that they're changing things. We are changing things. So by that measure, you may, of course, edit your information, and you don't have to update your answers when there's new answers coming forward. You can just like add these, because technically, it's like 100 questions, but which ones are popping up in the top 11? You want to make sure you're answering those ones. Okay? So there will be some that will be removed from this list, and some that will be added in time, and
Sure.
there's no timeline for that. It could be tomorrow, it could be weeks, months, I don't know.
Somebody's asking if we should connect specifically with Lang.
Lang does not want your emails.
Lang, here they come.
Lang is a coordinator, much like, as an air traffic controller, you can't, meet with every pilot's live, you affected.
Right.
It's just maybe one day, it'll be a book signing kind of thing. I don't know, but
Lang, I'm going to send mine to yours just for professional courtesy.
Professional courtesy, yes. Well, I'd be professionally disinclined to read it. Just so you know, I don't read all those ones or something.
Okay.
That's not what she's saying. She's not saying what she's going to do.
Right.
But she's admitting, you don't need to send the address. The more you send the address, it's just going to close down your opportunities. Right. You can, mind you, send it to a specific individual, say, Adama or, Adronis or whoever it is, that you believe is an extraterrestrial that can take care of you. Of course you can send it. But right now, there's operators waiting for your answers. They will be the best people for you. Be like, no, I want to get it in with my, my ascended alien, E.T. Michael Jackson. Yeah. I want to send it through Michael Jackson. Fine.
And if you get it in by midnight tonight, you'll get some Ginsu knives.
All right.
Okay.
We're going to wrap up this show here today.
Yes.
Thank you, Don, for joining me.
Julian, thank you. Awesome.
I'm going to see you in a couple of days. It'll be exciting.
Yes, I know.
I think we should probably make a video or two or something.
We probably should.
So that's not a promise, people, but we'll maybe play around and see what we come up with. Mm-hmm. And if you have any questions, still, post them in the comments.
Yes.
I just realized a really good practice is to ask people to like my videos, because that'll help its circulation for other people to find it.
Okay.
So like my videos, subscribe to my channel. I'm now going to add that little spiel in there. I'm not used to it, but I'll try to remember. And visit my website, julianwells.com, and you can subscribe for updates. And the questions that get changed will definitely show up in the updates. So you'll get them by email. You don't have to necessarily, look for my show. And you can find me on Facebook on my Julian Wells public page. And Don, how should people find you?
Facebook is probably the best. I've met a lot of you that way, so look for me, Don Murphy. You can find me on Julian's stuff. So
on Julian's stuff,
yeah, it's probably the easiest. Or I think it's on the show here.
So and if it somehow is very difficult, I can pass on messages.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
He knows how to find me.
All right.
Yes, there we go.
I want to thank everybody. Now's a good time for wrapping up.
Yes.
And we will see you next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific.
Exactly.
And Don will be joining us again. And we will. I don't know what the subject matter will be, but I'm sure it'll be just as great like today.
That's okay. I find out a minute before we go on anyway. So. That's great.
Am I sorry for that? I'm not sorry for that.
No, yeah.
Okay.
We're doing well.
All right. Good night, everyone. And thank you, everyone in the chat room, for joining us. I see many familiar names. Thank you for coming. And, share this video if you felt something came of it. So,
yeah, please do.
All right. Good night.
Thank you.